effect of this is that it will blow apart the whole rotten structure that I've been talking about. This is not government of the people, by the people, for the people. Starmer represents government of the blob, by the blob, for the blob. And when it fails, it will be the blob that failed, not Britain. I think we should be talking about cancelling the Prime Minister, shouldn't we, really? This is the sort of thing, and I'm making a bit of a joke of it, but it's actually a very close line to being serious. This is the kind of thing that got people put in jail back in Jerusalem.
Keir Starmer doesn't come across like a proper political leader. He feels more like a polished slide deck that somehow started walking and talking. You watch him trying to steer the UK, and it's awkward, like someone tackling a tough job without even knowing the fundamentals, yet acting totally confident. That's the strange part. The certainty is there. The substance, not so much. Everything about him feels stiff, controlled, flat. There's no spark, no fire in the belly, no real drive pushing things forward. Technically, he does the role. He shows up, he speaks, he ticks the boxes. But where's the warmth? Where's the energy? Where's the actual sense of mission? He's present, yes, but every time he steps away, people are left thinking, was that it? And that's the problem. He doesn't crash, he doesn't explode. He just quietly underwhelms every single time.
I've never met Keir Starmer, I'm delighted to say, but we have, as they say, previous. At the time of my cancellation back in 2020, Starmer was the only person in public life who wanted poor little Darren Grimes and me to be charged under the Section 6 of the Public Order Act, which I think carries mandatory imprisonment and up to 6 years. But is the measure of the man, the measure of his nastiness, the measure of his desire for vengeance, the measure of his...
Then there's David Starkey, a historian with a razor-sharp mind and zero patience for fluff. He didn't just have a go at Starmer, he dismantled him, slowly, methodically, piece by piece, and here's the real sting. He challenged the whole competent leader image and showed how flimsy it actually is. Layer by layer, David Starkey peeled it back. No shouting, no theatrics, just calm control, cold confidence. He pulled apart the branding and exposed what was really underneath. Thin arguments, recycled sound bites, a leadership approach that feels like yesterday's script on repeat. Nothing fresh, nothing bold, nothing that makes you sit up. And that's what made it brutal. It wasn't loud, it wasn't chaotic, it was measured, accurate, and absolutely devastating.
Sentences of up to 6 years. Right. Now, even the Times, that was not very sympathetic, wrote a third leader saying, this is mad. One public figure supported that charge. Sir Keir Starmer,
of course,
ex-DPP. And this is where they are a real, genuine and...
Now let's talk about Keir Starmer. His biggest weakness? He genuinely seems to think he's the calm, sensible hero Britain's been waiting for. The man sent in to steady the ship. Sounds noble. But here's the reality check. He barely stands for anything solid. Strip away the image, and what do you get? A leadership style with no real direction, no real bravery, no real imagination. He's so obsessed with looking reasonable that he forgets to actually believe in something. Being sensible isn't a vision. It's not a plan. It's not leadership. Where's the passion? Where's the bold move that makes people pay attention? Where's the clear destination for the country? You never quite hear it. Instead, you get policies that feel safe, carefully worded, perfectly polished, and completely forgettable.
Dear Starmer, this constant fact that he harks on about being chief prosecutor. He's not, he's called Director of Public Prosecutions. But chief prosecutor, what does it make him sound like? It makes him sound like a figure out of Stalin's Russia. In Starmer's eyes, he is clearly of impeccable character. He is...
David Starkey didn't need to shout. He didn't need drama. He just said out loud what loads of people are already thinking. This isn't leadership, it's risk management. Starmer isn't actually guiding anyone anywhere. He's balancing opinions, softening every sharp edge, dodging danger at all costs. Everything gets run through committees, then trimmed down with careful wording, then delayed with more hesitation. By the time it reaches the public, it's drained of life. Politics under Starmer feels dull. dull, flat, mechanical, like one of those never-ending office emails. Loads of words, zero meaning. It demands your attention, but says absolutely nothing.
It is a genuine emergency. There is a constitutional emergency. There is a political emergency. These things are manifestly malfunctioning. The proposals, the new Labour, the renewed Labour, actually it's just old New Labour proposals of Gordon Brown, will make a bad situation even worse. They will destroy what little faith there is in politics and politicians. Yes, but with a very heavy heart.
Starmer genuinely seems to think playing it safe makes him clever, more electable, more strategic. But here's the blunt truth. You don't inspire anyone by fading into the background. Being bland isn't a master plan. It's a slow disappearance. He acts like if he stands perfectly still, keeps everything neutral, keeps every edge softened, people will just assume he's a serious, weighty authority figure. That's not how it works. Instead, the public is left squinting at him. Is he thinking? Is he hesitating? Or is he just scared to take a step? There's no spark, no momentum, no moment that makes you sit up and think, right, this is leadership. Nothing about his style builds belief. Nothing about it generates excitement. And without that, you're not leading, you're just existing.
Starmer's quite extraordinary. He's like a kind of speak your weight machine. What are they? We have working people. We have dear me. I've heard them so often. My father is a toolmaker. All these phrases constantly recurring, almost as though it's a kind of computer. It's almost like I've used an old-fashioned phrase, a speak your weight machine. He's a kind of AI, but he's not. AI would do it very, very much better. Very much better, because Starmer is something different.
And then there's the flip-flopping. One day, it's bold reform, big promises, big energy. Next day, those promises quietly vanish into corporate waffle. It's like they dissolve overnight. He talks as if he's already sorry for choices he hasn't even made yet. Think about that. The only thing he stays consistent on is being inconsistent, and David Starkey clocked it straight away. No confusion, no hesitation. He made it obvious he wasn't buying any of it. Every time Starmer opens his mouth, the room just dips. The mood drops. He doesn't connect with people. He studies them. You can almost see the calculations happening in real time. Measured responses, carefully processed reactions. It feels less like listening and more like data analysis. Put him in a normal social setting, a pub, a dinner, anywhere casual, and the vibe would turn awkward instantly. Not tense, not explosive, just painfully stiff.
The problem is, and this is, we're going back to Starmer and whatever, the left in particular just believe in a culture of words. The absurd dispute about Elon Musk and doing that, or rather that, which shows he's a fascist. Here is a man who has just spent £44 billion making sure that X has freedom of speech. I don't think freedom of speech was very high on Adolf Hitler's list. But it's the entire left is about words and gestures.
And here's the twist. He's somehow made Jeremy Corbyn look energetic in comparison. Let that sink in. At least Jeremy Corbyn clearly believed in something. You might have disagreed with him. Plenty of people did. But you knew where he stood. Starmer? He feels like he's permanently stuck in a political training course. Every policy sounds provisional. Every answer feels rehearsed, carefully managed, carefully filtered. Nothing solid, nothing planted in the ground. And yet he still expects public backing. Backing for what exactly? Half the time the message sounds like this: well, I'm not the other option. That's not a vision. That's a placeholder. He doesn't come across like a leader shaping the future. He feels like someone keeping the seat warm until the real decision maker turns up.
Starmer, as the Baldwin biography makes clear, has fundamental and indeed fundamentalist beliefs. He is a believer in the supremacy of law. That doesn't actually mean the supremacy of law. It means the supremacy of lawyers, of people like him. He believes that basically Human society should be constructed according to rules made by people like him, which are enforced by people like him, and prevent anybody else who is not like him from having a say in anything. And it's through the device of this strange thing called human rights law.
David Starkey, a man rooted in history and serious thinking, wasn't about to let that pass. He started stripping back Starmer's public image, layer by layer. And what did he find underneath? More emptiness. Behind the polished speeches and neatly rehearsed lines, there's a figure who seems to stand for one main thing, not upsetting anyone. But here's the problem: playing it safe isn't leadership. If you refuse to plant your feet, you end up swaying with every gust of pressure. 1 week Starmer is championing workers. Next week he's calming the nerves of bankers. 1 minute it's strong talk on climate duty. The next he's carefully sidestepping powerful interests. That's not balance. And David Starkey made that crystal clear. This isn't strength under control. It's retreat dressed up as caution.
This government, the situation that it's finding itself in, is actually starting to force it to think. It's doing it very reluctantly. The whole bias of the Labour Party is it is the welfare party. It pretends to be the party of work,
yes,
but in fact it's the party of state.
While all that's going on, David Starkey turns up armed with history and hard facts, and he points out something uncomfortable. Starmer's biggest achievement seems to be this: people have almost forgotten that Labour once stood on firm principles. That stings, but notice how David Starkey does it. No shouting, no rage, just calm dismantling. History as the weapon. He reminds everyone that Britain has seen real leadership before, leaders with backbone, clear convictions, the guts to defend what they believed. Put Starmer next to that standard and he looks out of place. Completely. His fence-sitting isn't strategy, it's paralysis. Brexit, the economy, immigration, education, different topics, same routine. Step 1, say something vague. Step 2, pause and watch the reaction. Step 3, clarify by saying even less. Then comes the classic move. Blame miscommunication, flash an awkward smile, and move on. Nothing settled, nothing resolved, just another cycle.
It's exactly this. And instead, what Starmer has done is to dare to go back to fundamentals. But does he know what he's doing? Does he really, well, he does now, know what an extraordinary can of worms he's opened? I mean, part of the problem, isn't it, is Starmer is a man with absolutely no sensitivity to language. Starmer did not write this speech. Of course he didn't. Starmer doesn't write any of his speeches. He thinks and talks like an automaton. Somebody has put these words in his mouth. Does he?
At this point, a lot of Labour supporters aren't even furious anymore. They're just worn out. They expected leadership. What they got was hesitation. Starmer's style of opposition doesn't feel sharp or dangerous. It feels soft, unconvincing. Even his rivals look at him like, this is the threat? That says everything. When Starmer steps onto a stage, you can see the preparation. Every sentence sounds practiced. Every pause feels timed. It's all tightly managed. And yet, it still falls flat. No fire, no real bond with the crowd, no urgency pushing the moment forward. Instead, what comes across is tiredness. And worse than that, a sense that he doesn't fully believe his own words.
So, Starmer and I have previous. How's he gone so badly wrong? Well, several people, I mean, if you think of Rosie Duffield's magnificent letter, she points out that this is a man who is now Prime Minister of the country who had no political experience. He is also not simply a lawyer. Everybody said to me, how on earth can this man be a QC? How can he be so, well, A, dumb, and B, how can he be so bad at public speaking? You know, nasal whine. Well, I suppose he can't help that he comes from Reigate, but that's or indeed, my father was a toolmaker too, but I did something about it, I suppose. But what has gone wrong with Starmer is that A, he's not very clear.
David Starkey didn't need to shout. He just held up a mirror to Keir Starmer and let the audience see him for what he really is. And what they saw? A leader who doubts every firm belief. Someone whose biggest political move is dodging clear answers. His whole career seems aimed at one thing: staying visible just enough to matter without ever being strong enough to upset anyone. Britain doesn't need comfort, it needs leadership, and yet Starmer keeps talking about rebuilding trust, as if anyone's forgotten he walked away from the promises that got him the Labour leadership in the first place. It's like asking for applause after the trick has been exposed. The result? Not renewed faith, not admiration, indifference, growing every day.
Starmer's something completely different. He's our first totally non-political Prime Minister. He embodies something, I think, completely new in British politics that we've never seen before, and we're already realising just how dreadful it is. What Starmer is the incarnation of all the fundamental changes that have taken place in our constitution, a kind of behind-the-scenes revolution since Blair. Starmer has a real set of values. He believes in the rules. Theresa May believed in the rules, but Starmer's are a much more structured, much more focused set.
Whenever Keir Starmer talks about change, it lands flat. He throws the word around a lot, but never says what it actually means. Change from what? Change toward what? No answers. Everything he says sounds robotic, detached, like it was written just to fill space, not to spark action. David Starkey didn't need a long rebuttal. A quiet look said it all. Starmer's message? Lifeless, bland, overworked, half-finished, and yet he stands there expecting applause, as if he's just offered something daring. The public reaction? Not even close. People aren't inspired. They're already scanning the horizon, looking for someone, anyone, who actually stands for something.
We've seen through them. We are all now the little boy crying out, "The emperor's got no clothes." And Starmer is marching stark naked, repeatedly stripped off, telling lie after lie after lie, which we all know are lies. This is why trust in politics is collapsing. People know they're being...
What makes it worse? Keir Starmer actually seems to think this approach is working. He talks like he's cracked every problem just by planning carefully. Every speech is delivered with confidence, but no warmth, no personality, and yet he acts like he's winning hearts and minds. The audience? Confused. Who is he even speaking to? David Starkey didn't need to blow things up. He just pointed out the obvious. Starmer is so cautious, so neutral. He practically disappears into the background. The harder he tries to look calm and above the chaos, the more forgettable he becomes. He wants to be seen as thoughtful, as steady, but ends up looking distant, detached, like he's not really in the room at all.